Well, the arraignment of a former president is something we have never seen before. History was made today as former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts for falsifying business records. Now, we have asked Marie Eisenstein. She is the Associate Professor of Political Science at IU Northwest and an expert on presidential politics, to join us today to help us understand the implications of this indictment. Professor Eisenstein, thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, this has never before happened to a former U.S. president. What does this mean, in your thoughts? What does this mean to the U.S. presidency and to our democracy?
I think that this means a lot in terms of our democracy. I consider it a painful and sad day to see a former president and someone who's also trying to run for the 2024 presidency to be indicted. And I will point people to a couple of public opinion statistics. There's a poll that suggests that well over 60% of Americans support the former president being indicted. But interestingly enough, when asked in that same poll if they think the indictment is political, about 60% also think that the indictment is political, and that cuts across Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. And that's why I say it's a sad day when you have an indictment that is perceived as political. Well, and many would argue actually is political. So that is something that our justice system has not seen before.
Well, let's talk about that then, because the charges are falsifying business records regarding hush money payments. These are not the big allegations that have been tossed at Trump before, like stealing the election or aiding in the insurrection, things like that. So some people are arguing that this is not as important. So why the push for this right now?
Well, I think that is the big question, is that many of the country's brilliant legal minds have, looked at what they suspect, because the indictment was just unsealed, to say that, these aren't charges that can stick. And so they point to Manhattan being a very a very large Democratic stronghold, and Alvin Bragg campaigning on I will be the one who will get tough on Trump campaign. And so this makes it look like this is a political targeting, because the commentary is that if the indictment is based on what the conjecture has been talked about falsifying, say, campaign finance reports, it's not a felony. The FEC refused to prosecute it. The state of New York refused to look into it. And the misdemeanor that underlies this, the statute of limitations has run out. So right. I think that those things lend themselves to saying, look, this looks political. Well, so in some ways it looks like this has really benefited former President Trump already. He's raised a lot of money. It seems like his base is kind of rallying around this. What do you see this doing for his political future? Well, in the short term, this is correct. We have what I would call, say, tribal politics, like team politics. I belong to a team and somebody from my team is attacked, so I rally around them. And so his fundraising has, since we've known that he would be appearing in New York, that the indictment had gone through, he's raised tens of millions. I want to say $8-10 million into his campaign in this very, very short period of time. In the long term, I cannot say that this will be beneficial for a campaign, because even if paying someone to not talk about your past relationship, right, quote unquote hush money, or more nicely, a non-disclosure agreement, even if it's not something that he can be criminally charged for, or if it goes to trial, he's not found guilty of, it's still unseemly events that would be coming into a presidential campaign. Well, and let's talk about that presidential campaign, because this does not disqualify him from running for president again. But one thing I've noticed that, Republicans are still rallying behind him. And I've noticed, this, to me, this seems like a real chance for a challenger, perhaps Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, to step up now and make some noise. But we're not seeing that. Why is that, do you think? Yeah, I think that, again, in the short term, what we have is the former President Donald Trump is still the ostensible leader of the Republican Party. Even though Ron DeSantis has, he has not declared that he's running, but he's a very viable candidate. He's been in the media a lot. I think about a day or two ago, Governor DeSantis did try to, actually say something like, look, these aren't pleasant events to be talking about. And it went absolutely nowhere. So, and I think that's just in the short term, this could very much help Trump. Mm-hmm. It could help him in this election in terms of the primary, but I'm not so sure that it would help him at all in a general election.
A lot to watch for. Of course, we'll be watching closely all the developments. And Professor Eisenstein, Marie Eisenstein from IU Northwest, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and shedding some light on this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.